Hello, my name is Brian, and I'm one of the attorneys here at Fidelity Law. When most clients are doing their initial research regarding the possibility of a bankruptcy, most of them learn something about what's called the means test and the requirement to pass the means test in order to qualify for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. But this concept of the means test may be one of the most misunderstood concepts in bankruptcy. So let me shed a little bit of light on this concept for you. The means test is generally a measure of whether a person really needs to file a bankruptcy, or whether they would have the ability to pay their creditors if they chose to. This is really a way for the courts to attempt to minimize abuse of the bankruptcy process by prohibiting anyone who could otherwise afford to pay their creditors from discharging them in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The basis for the means test is a person's current monthly income, or CMI. The first question is, based upon the client's CMI, whether the means test even applies or not. If a person's CMI is less than the median family income in the state in which the client's filed, then the means test doesn't even apply. Many attorneys say that having your CMI below the median is one way to pass the means test. But in reality, if your CMI is below the median, then the means test doesn't even apply in the first place. This is a fine distinction, but it can be an important procedural point because it does eliminate one of the potential reasons for dismissal of your case. So understanding this procedural distinction is important, and any qualified attorney will know this. Now, the median family income is tabulated and created by the Bureau of Census for each particular state. This is published data, so it's very easy to find and compare. But even though it's easy to find the median family income, it's not necessarily easy to calculate a client's current monthly income. So let's talk about that a little bit. The current monthly income, or CMI, is defined as the average monthly income from all sources for the preceding 6-month period before the month in which the client filed bankruptcy. Now, this has a couple of important parts to it. The first is the fact that it's all sources of income. And the second is that it's only for the preceding 6 months. Now, what the Bankruptcy Code means by all sources is truly all sources of income. So this means all sources of income from any source that the debtor earns. But also included is any money that's paid by anybody else on a regular basis for household expenses. So even if, for example, you had a husband and a wife who were both contributing to the household expenses, but had the husband only filing for bankruptcy, in this case, you would still need to include all of the contributions made by the wife to the household expenses when calculating the husband's CMI. Note that you don't need to include all of her income, just the portion that she contributes to the household expenses on a regular basis. This could also include money paid by anybody else, like a roommate or a parent or a friend. So you then take your CMI and you subtract a few things. You need to subtract a certain percentage of your secured loans. You then have to subtract a certain percentage of your priority debts, things like taxes and domestic support and a few others. Then you subtract out certain essential expenses that are scheduled by the IRS. These are things like housing and transportation with very specific amounts. So you subtract out each of these items, and then you determine whether you have a surplus or a deficit. Now, if you have a surplus, which means that you have roughly $166 left over after subtracting out those items, then you pass the means test. In this case, passing the means test means that you have the means to pay your debts, and you're not eligible for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. In this case, you would have enough money to qualify for a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and you'd have to go that route. But if, on the other hand, after doing this calculation, you have less than about $100 left over, then you'll fail the means test, which means that you don't have the means to pay your debts, and you'll therefore be allowed to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So as I mentioned, the means test may seem confusing, but if you have proper guidance, it can be a relatively simple portion of the bankruptcy process. Good luck, and have a great day.